this too. I gotta lean back a little bit because I forgot the cover again. So I gotta just not get up really close like this. You can probably hear that in the I'm probably gonna give myself a headache later when I'm editing this. But okay, I think we're ready to start. Welcome to the Monkey Bar. It's been a while. We took a long hiatus, but now we are back. This episode is probably gonna go up before the last episode we recorded previously, just because the next one that's coming up is going to have a lot of high production quality, so or higher than average. Yeah,
it's a double D production.
Yeah, but today we are talking about the Ghostbusters. Zach, it's been a while since you've seen the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, the last time I saw the originals was when the remake or reboot came out. And so right before it came out, I watched them in order of ones I prefer second to first because I'm weird.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch the second. That's also on Netflix. I recently rewatched the first one on Netflix. Still holds up. That's what I like about the Ghostbusters is that you don't even have to provide a recap or for first timers. You already know what it's about just from the title. It's about a bunch of guys fresh out of college. They decided to start a business busting ghosts and make a lot of money. And yeah, the first one, it actually holds up for the most part.
I think it's practical effects, really.
Yeah.
Because, even the cheesy effects, like when they do the glow, not cheesy, that's the right word, when they do the ghost effects, they still look good. Yeah. Also, you gotta love the puppetry in the films. Yeah. I'm always a fan of animatronics and guys in costumes.
Yeah. Another thing is that, and this was pointed out to me by when Red Letter Media did a retrospective of Ghostbusters, is the writing. The writing is super tight, as opposed to the remake where most of that's improv. The first Ghostbusters and second one, they have a very tight script.
I remember the one scene that stuck with me was when they're haggling the price at the hotel, and you can see the guy doing the hand signs. I forget the character's name, but I'll just call him Bill Murray, Harold Ramis.
Yeah, Venkman, Egon, and what was Dan Aykroyd's character's name?
Oh, Dan Aykroyd. And there's also black guy.
Yeah, Winston.
Winston. Oh man, I feel stupid. Yeah.
I feel like we can't end this episode before I remember Dan Aykroyd's character's name because it's right on the tip of my stance. Yeah. Stance with a Z at the end. But yeah, they're all really well written.
I think that's the trick of Harold Ramis movies, was improv can be good in a lot of things. Like, for example, Drax in Avengers is mostly completely ad-libbed. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that as good as an ad-lib is that you can get out of a spurt comedy, if you got it tight to an art, there is no element of surprise. Mm-hmm. Or it's mathematical almost.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons in both senses, but where improv can fail, and it can fail really easily, as we've seen in the remake, where if you're really sloppy, then it just comes across as almost cringy. I hate using that word now, but yeah, it's that's probably fitting.
The one thing before we get to the thing, I'm just gonna say I only remember one really cool thing about the remake. Mm-hmm. It had Ozzy Osbourne in there with a giant demon ghost.
Oh, yeah. Did you see the remake?
I did. I saw it in theaters with my mom.
I didn't see the remake, and
I remember. Let's go back to the original first.
Yeah. Let's talk more about the original.
I remember there was this double disc collection that came with a little booklet that was written in universe, and it gives a little bit of lore because it's got good world building, The part with there was only Zool and the gatekeepers. If you can't tell me that was inspired a little bit by H.P. Lovecraft, And
in the animated series, they actually do fight Cthulhu.
Isn't the episode called The Collect Call of Cthulhu?
That sounds about right, yeah.
And they even use the damn Star Spawn, which are Star Spawn. Yay, look, we're Cthulhu's we're fanboys, so we changed our appearance to look like him. Also, wasn't there a cartoon called The Real Ghostbusters? That
was the same cartoon.
Oh, cool.
Because
there's another Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Filmation. There was a company that did the original quote unquote Ghostbusters, the one with the guy in the gorilla suit, and they're all in that old timey.
Oh yeah.
They were called the Ghostbusters, and that was before the the actual movie got made.
Imagine if they bought the rights to that so they could do a crossover. I heard there's some really good Ghostbuster comics, actually.
Yeah, I've heard that they've put out some really good ones.
It's by IDW, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, they own they do like the comics for all the licensed shows.
Yeah, but they understand it. Like Dark Horse used to do Godzilla, and their comics were all like, "Oh, he's injured." If they do IDW, it's like, "Look, we know that Godzilla's inherently still plot. Let's have an invasion that causes all the kaiju to form an army because they understand material." What I really liked about the original Ghostbusters in hindsight was not all the jokes need to be stated out front.
Yeah, like there's just so many one-liners that are just off the cuff, and there are some that took a little bit to resonate with me, where I'm like, and like especially the ones where if you take them out of context, they're not that funny, but if you actually watch the movie, they're hilarious. Like the part where Egon's talking about the spectral phenomenon.
Doesn't it say like one big Twinkie?
Yeah, the Twinkie one. And like if you take that out of context, and it's like, oh, it's a joke about Twinkies, but it's really more like it depends on the story. Like,
it's ingrained into it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the word I would like to use to describe a lot of the humor in Ghostbusters. Is ingrained, because the jokes and the world building and the characters are just so finely put together.
Yeah, especially the characters, because really what Ghostbusters is Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis. They're all just playing off each other, and that's what makes the movie so great. Is just a bunch of comedians who are really on the ball and able to work off of each other really well.
I'm not huge on Bill Murray all the time, but I loved him in Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Well, like that's one of the few things that I had a problem with the original Ghostbusters is where like he's in Sigourney Weaver's apartment and like inspecting like around, and like he's just using it as an excuse to creep on her, and like that, like the way he comes across is like a little rapey. And like especially by today's standards in the post #MeToo movement.
Oh god, man! Like, yeah. Just because I like how he is in the movie doesn't mean I like him as a character.
Yeah. Venkman is a real sleazeball. I remember the first time I watched the movie where he's doing the psychic study with the two.
And he's going like, it's the wrong one on all of the guys.
Yeah, the guy, like he keeps like shocking the guy, and he's like flattering the girl, even though the guy ends up like showing psychic like potential. He's like saying, oh, it's a bunch of wavy lines, and it's the right card, but he's like, nope, I'm gonna shock you anyway. And like to me, like I think I mentioned before, I'm really into psychic powers, and
that kind of like thins you as a kid.
Yeah, it's like,
Can you imagine if Charles Xavier? Just like all of a sudden, like I forget his character name, like Bill Murray's eyes implode and he falls over dead. Yeah. Oh man. I remember when I was a kid, the part about where, choose your destroyer. That is my favorite part of the film, actually. Hey, speaking of the original, have you ever heard of that Ghostbusters show they used to do in the Universal Studios ones? They did this thing where they wouldn't. So obviously you want to use the ghost effects, but how would you do, going through people? And it took them almost 6 years to develop the idea. Or something like that. Well, the thing was, they originally were going to use computer effects like a light printed on a green screen, but there's an issue. It's a two-dimensional object. So they figured out, I think it's called like the apparition trick. You put a guy on the floor and you hide him, but there's a mirror pointing upwards. And if it's done correctly, it creates this 3D image of almost a hologram, but not technically of a ghost. So you could have a ghost fly through somebody. And it was an awesome show. Apparently, I wasn't even born by the time it came out.
Right.
And then it turned into the movie Twister.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Yeah, I kind of want to see Universal Studio things, and for what films they want to go over for. Jurassic Park. I remember another thing I liked was the theme song. It's a classic.
Yeah. You ever seen the Neil Sigarija remix?
No.
You ever heard of that guy?
No.
He's the guy who did the Brody Quest, and he did. It was either before or after Brody Quest. They did a remix of the Ghostbusters theme called "Bustin'," and it just removes. It removes all references to the Ghostbusters.
So he's just bustin' and bustin'.
Bustin' makes me feel good, and.
Out of context.
Yeah, I actually used that song in one of the previous episodes, and I don't know. It's really funny.
What you do is truly just feel like fan art of female characters, like ecchi anime. Anyways, yeah, Ghostbusters 2, I remember when I was a kid not really liking it at first.
I remember seeing bits and pieces of it as a kid too.
Like, if I remember the plot, there's Sigourney Weaver has Baby, I think. Baby is really, really powerful or something of that effect. And a painting comes to life to kill her, or Baby, or take it, whatever. Oh, I'm the king of ghosts, or what have you. What I remember was there was a game came out called Ghost Hunters, which, despite sounding like a Studio Brincado knockoff, or Video Brincado, excuse me, what they did was, it was a love letter to Ghostbusters, because they couldn't get the rights to the game. Company folded. 2 years later, they made Ghostbusters the game. Yeah, the second one, I remember they had the scene where all the ghosts come into the city, and that was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
I remember the lady. Was that in the first one, actually, where they had the ghost out?
It happened in the first one.
But didn't they have the woman wearing all the furs and the furs come to life in the first one?
That might have been the second one.
Yeah, the second one I haven't seen in a long. Or I don't remember it as well.
I just remember there was like a slime monster or something in the second one, and it makes me think of the Power Rangers movie with Ivan Ooze, because I remember the slime was purple in both movies.
You know, I love old villain names, because, you know, nowadays it's like, you know, Tarkarius or Ebony Maw. Back when it was like, take a name that, what's the word, has a ring to it, what's it called, like, alliteration. So, Ivan, Ooze. And usually they pick Russian or German names like Ivan. Ivan was the villain name for a long time, it seemed.
Yeah. Dimitri Double D's. I don't know. I was just off the top.
Yeah, anyway,
anything more to say about the second one?
I remember there was a scene that confused me as a kid where they kept going like, they snap, I can't snap my finger, but they're snapping their fingers from a kid's ear. I go their eyes to make sure the kid can pay attention to them. Yeah. Also, that was Sigourney Weaver in the movies, actually.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird not seeing her fighting aliens. Or in really crappy Seth MacFarlane comedies.
Which one was she in?
Paul, the one with the alien?
Was that Seth MacFarlane?
Yeah. Seth MacFarlane, I think, or Seth Green.
Yeah, that.
One of the Seth.
Rogen. I think.
Yeah, Seth Rogen. Yeah. Look at subpar comedians with Seth in their name. Well, Rogen, not Seth. I kind of like, actually, the three of them. Just MacFarlane needs to do a different Family Guy, for God's sake. I'd like to talk about the remake.
Okay.
I had high hopes of a remake, because it wasn't as big of a series to me, but I think that if you do a good attempt, you can do a spin on anything and make it good. They made a good Jurassic Park film where the park works for a little bit. They made a really good... Okay, they made an okay Transformers movie. And then, like, I watched it. And the joke is, remember the original? We're women. There were some funny lines, there were some funny scenes, and there was a moderately hot chick, but, like, it wasn't really that good. The thing I did like was the effects. They weren't practical because, you know, they had the budget of $10. Well, not. Actually, they had a high budget. None of it went to practical effects, though. And I think that's the spirit of Ghostbusters is part of their effects.
Well, the spirit of Ghostbusters, for me, and like this goes for a lot of movies made in the 1980s, 1970s, is when you had science fiction themes, it was always like the technology always looked junky and broken, but it got the job done. You think of the proton packs, you think of the DeLorean, you think of the Millennium Falcon. They were all pieces of junk, but they got the job done until the end.
I'm not sure if there's a punk thing for that, but like maybe like junk punk.
Maybe. I
might have to look into that in the future because I like the aesthetic.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a word for it, but yeah, that like we could coin a term, copyright.
Junk punk.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Anyways, the thing that I remember most about the movie was the villain. Mm-hmm. The villain was like a ghost fetishist, and at the end of the film, he turns into Oogie Boogie from Nightmare Before Christmas.
I thought he would turn into like the logo. That was.
It's supposed to be the logo, but it looks like the guy from Nightmare Before Christmas. I was expecting him to roll giant dice at them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing though that I really did like about the remake they weren't bad casting. Mm-hmm. I could see the film working with everyone casted in film. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Bill Murray shows up.
Yeah.
Have you seen him, or do you know about his cameo?
Yeah, he looks like he's about to die.
And he does die. Mm-hmm. I bet he was like, just kill me.
Yeah. Like, most of his scenes are just him sitting down from...
And he always has a sad look. You know the look like... You know when Bill Murray doesn't want to do... It's like what he looks like near the end of Groundhog's Day. But that's not his character. It's just him bleeding through. Also, Winston shows up at the end. But it's not Winston. It's just her uncle.
Right.
Or is Winston... Yeah. So, one of the things...
That might have been, like, the first movie that I was glad that failed. Because I don't think I've ever been glad to see a movie fail until then.
I think the first one I was glad it failed was, to be honest, Transformers in a way. They're not doing bad box office-wise, but they're being lashed by the critics. Mm-hmm. You want to have a good, easy job as a film critic? Review a Transformers film. Mm-hmm. The best one they made after the original, which was okay, was the one where they have Optimus Prime riding Grimlock fighting an army of Decepticons. Mm-hmm.
The only thing I haven't seen any of the Transformers movies past the first one. Yeah. But the only thing I remember from that I thought was memorable from the last one was probably the trailer theme, because they used a remixed version of a Flaming Lips song, "Do You Realize?" And it's like one of those sad, earthy, slow piano covers. I don't know. I thought that it was bizarre enough that it got my attention.
It can work. Like Jurassic World is a good one because
you're talking about the second movie trailer?
No, the one where they go da da da. It works because they're trying to make it a scary movie. So they're taking one of the most heartwarming themes, in my opinion. It's my opinion, I'll be honest here, and they're making it all spooky.
I don't know if it really works, though. That's just me, though.
I'm a fanboy for Jurassic Park, so don't take anything I say with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I think we can move on to the animated series. And you haven't seen the animated series, the real Ghostbusters, have you?
I've seen an episode.
Okay, good. Well, that's me. I just today I watched the first episode of the first season.
Wasn't Slimer their sidekick?
Yeah.
Was it still Frank Welker?
Yeah, and that was actually distracting for me. Frank Welker I think he voices Slimer, but he also voiced Stantz. Right? Yeah, Ray Stant. And the thing, I kept waiting for him to say, "Okay, gang, let's solve a mystery," and it's just so, it's so weird, hearing his voice, just identical to Fred's.
Do you know what I really love? He voices Megatron, right?
Yeah.
His real voice is Fred Flintstone. They did this interview with him. It was when they're opening this Universal Transformers thing. Hey guys, it's me, Frank Welker, and we're gonna do this. And then he asked, "Can you do the Megatron voice? Do you want me to do the Megatron voice?" And he goes, "Please." "I do not want to do it." He just switches. He goes from Fred. I almost said Flintstone. From Fred to Lord Megatron between a word. It scared me.
Yeah. Bill Murray's character, Venkman, he's voiced by Lorenzo Music, who actually voiced Garfield in the original animated series.
Does it sound like Garfield?
Yeah.
I hate it when I don't hate it, but it always distracts me when I can recognize the voice. Mm-hmm. That's what actually about Yu Yu Hakusho, check this episode, was that whenever you had to point it out to me, but whenever mentally challenged guy talked, I was only going to say Guzma, but that's Pokemon. Whenever the big guy talked, I kept hearing Vegeta. Vaguely. You know what I'm talking about? You can hear the vague inflection.
Is that before or after I brought that up?
I couldn't place it, and when he said it, it clicked.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they made a remake of, make a continuation of the animated thing? Maybe that would have been cool.
Well, there was sort of a continuation in the 90s called the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Was that the one where they had the crippled kid?
Yeah. And they also, and the hot goth chick. That was, yeah. And
I have vague memories of her.
Yeah. If you Google Extreme Ghostbusters Kylie, you better be prepared for some results.
I won't do it on here, anyways.
Especially if you're searching video. Anyway, That one was less well received than the real Ghostbusters, actually. I mean, I haven't gone back.
Is it doing that? Yeah, it's the 90s.
Pretty much, yeah.
I kind of I love it when they do that because occasionally you'll get some good cheese.
Yeah. I remember actually like the movie Evolution with David Duchovny, which was sort of a alien. It was sort of like an alien version of Ghostbusters in the early 2000s. And there was an animated series of that which had nothing to do with the movie called Alienators Evolution.
Was it good?
I think that if I went back and rewatched it now, I would think it was terrible.
You know what was good? You have a 1998 Godzilla film, but it's like, if you want to make fun of Godzilla, you make fun of that one. Mm-hmm. It had one of the best cartoons of its time.
Right.
Like, literally, they fixed the issue by making Godzilla fight other lamer monsters. Because they did this one thing. They made a hummingbird kaiju. And you're going, what's a hummingbird going to do? It moves so fast, it creates image duplicates. It basically does a Naruto attack every time it attacks.
You can mention that. Either that or...
And there's also the character my friend called the inflation fetish worm. Because it starts out, like, his name is, like, El something, because it's a Spanish monster. That's called, like, El Muerte, and then when it gets fat, they call him El Gordo, and El Gordo was, like, my favorite monster, because it was almost, it turned from a dachshund into a pug.
But yeah, I would like to see more of real Ghostbusters when I get home. It's all on Netflix. Not Extreme Ghostbusters though.
Oh, I need to go home. You know, I admit,
It is interesting because like the first. I guess I've heard that the first couple of seasons stay faithful to the movie. It was actually written by, I think the showrunner was J. Michael Straczynski, who did Babylon 5 and a bunch of comic books.
The name's very familiar to me.
Yeah, like, if you look up his name, then there's a fair chance that you'll have consumed some media that he's worked on. I think he actually did the reboot of Superman back in the late 2000s, Superman Earth 1.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that I know him from. But yeah, I was surprised to see his name in the...
All the adaptations have some pedigree to them, actually.
Yeah. But let's see. Anything else we can talk about relating to Ghostbusters?
I actually have, it's an article here from Tor.com I'm not sure about.
Oh yeah, you were going to mention this.
It's the Ghostbuster movies that almost got made. And so basically what was going to happen was they weren't going to do, what they weren't going to make it like, you know, a remake. It was actually just going to be a sequel. In the 1990s, Dan Aykroyd wrote the first one that was called Hellbent, where the whole setup is, oh no, we got sent into an alternate version of Manhattan called Manhattan. The biggest thing was the Ghostbusters became a corporation with a whole fleet of ectocars. Winston is now Dr. Zedmore. Aykroyd described Hell as not some distant dimension, but right next door. It's basically a flipped Manhattan, which is something I really think that you'd dig.
It's like it's like Super Mario Brothers, the movie.
Kind of, actually. Oh, and everyone in Manhattan, their evil twin. The movie's big guy was going to be the devil, except he was a Donald Trump figure named Luke Sither. And I kind of like that name.
Topical.
Oh, but, yeah, I mean, like, Dan Aykroyd, oh my god. He's still alive, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I feel bad because it's Harold Ramis that died.
Yeah.
I feel bad because I was never really like aware of all the stuff he did until he passed away. It turned out I liked most of his stuff. So they interviewed Aykroyd and he said it was actually going to be the fourth film, but he wrote it as the third film, which is weird to me. So then in 2011 they wanted to do a second one that was going to be called New Blood. The only thing that they know is Bill Murray refused to appear in the film, and it's figuratively. So instead, it's basically the remake. So what they're going to do was, you know, it's the next generation, but they're still going to show up. One of the things that they're going to have was Ray was going to be blind to one eye and couldn't drive a Cadillac. He's got a bad knee, can't carry the pack. Egon's too large to get in a harness. So they need the new young blood, they need the next generation. And they're going to do 3 guys and a woman. And one of the guys they're talking to is Matthew Gray Goldberg from Criminal Minds. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to picture like these out of shape old men, you know, like he's trying to put on like the harness.
Yeah, that would work.
Can you imagine though if like you're doing that, like, oh no, this is like the most powerful ghost ever. We call him the Ghostbuster, whatever. You could even have him kill off Bill Murray. Yeah. And you know, Make him like the Predator X from Marvel. Are you familiar with Predator X?
No.
Basically, they invented a creature to kill off Wolverine in 2011, and it didn't kill him off. It was killed by Bishop and Cable. That's his entire wiki article. It's like, it showed up, got killed, its power was it sniffed out mutants. Oh, and then they're going to make Ghostbusters 3, the best and the brightest. He was talking about Larry King with this. And the problem was, how would they do particle physics and how it would affect the 4 dimensions? So it was going to start out with basically Columbia students, with a lot of the action being in the neighborhood of Morningside Heights. The reason why was it's referenced in the first movie is Miss Columbia adjuncts, I think. It's mentioned in the first movie, apparently. It was going to bring back the original characters, including Larry King. Murray was actually going to show up in it. Have you noticed there's a pattern here of Bill Murray not being huge on the projects? Was that ever a thing in the making me notice?
I don't know. I remember him saying he wasn't enthusiastic about the remake, and they just paid him a ton of money to be in there.
How many zeros can you put in my check?
Yeah. And how much more of that is there?
Oh, there's a few more. I just skipped it. I'm sorry.
Like, these aren't really all that interesting, to be honest.
I thought they were more interesting.
Yeah, like the idea. I guess like.
I think it's interesting that they kept swinging for this.
Yeah.
Because every time they did it, Paul Feige, I think his name was, he was swinging the bats with these and Dan Aykroyd. Mm-hmm. See, that's the sucky thing about unmade American films. They're not as interested in the unmade Godzilla.
Yeah.
We hit our high early.
I mean, unless you're talking about the Superman movie with Nicolas Cage.
God, do you know what I would have loved if they put Christopher Walken in there? And then at the end they tease like Zod. Not even Zod. Do like Brainiac and have him played by Patrick Stewart? Or just pick... Or
Brainiac played by Jeff Goldblum. That'd be neat.
Oh my...
I think that now we can talk about media that's been inspired by the Ghostbusters.
Oh, I already mentioned one without realizing. The Ghost Hunters?
Oh yeah, that's right. There's also tons of others. Like there's one that Danny Phantom, perhaps.
Oh,
that's one that's really popular. Yeah, they really hit the cultural mindsets. It's really interesting how marketable the Ghostbusters were, that they inspired so many of these spin-offs, or people who were inspired by them. Yeah, did you ever see Danny Phantom?
I love that show. I don't remember Jack and shit. Vlad Plasmus was my favorite character.
I remember it had good art direction. The story, I don't know, it doesn't really...
It was 2000s, right?
Yeah.
It really played on the 2000 mindsets.
Yeah, but comparing it to something like Teen Titans,
oh yeah,
Teen Titans definitely was a lot stronger with their story.
It was a Cartoon Network show, and I think that's probably it's the most damning thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that was more playing to the comics in the 1980s, and Danny Phantom was more Silver Age inspired, I guess.
Actually, yeah, I never realized it, but it's very classic. Goddamn, they're almost wearing the Fantastic Four suits.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, I remember liking Danny Phantom a lot when I was a kid.
I remember that I couldn't stand... I can't remember who it was. I think there's this one character I couldn't stand from the main cast. It may have been the girl, her voice. I don't remember.
Oh, yeah, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Even people who love goth girls hate her. Because, she's such a... hipster, I guess is the right word.
I was never goth or emo, but I really liked that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was something that was... whenever she'd show up.
Yeah.
I might want to mention that Ghost Hunters game again, because I remember something that I forgot. Are you familiar with the medieval games where you play the knight? It's a skeleton dude.
I've heard of it before.
It takes place in the same universe. The medieval. What
takes place in this?
The Ghost Hunters game, the one that was, okay. Literally, they have the characters, the skeleton's great-grandson show up as one of the guys. They did something that I think Ghostbusters could have had fun with, having good ghosts. The thing was, they're on this World War I ship, or it was World War II, and there was a Nazi agent. He tried stealing this ghost magic thing and turned into the Kraken, so they're cursed to forever fight him. And it turns from the third-person, first-person horror game into a real-time strategy squad management game.
I heard that the Ghostbusters game was pretty good.
Yeah, Ghost Hunters is also good, but Ghostbusters the game beat it. It's just
That was actually like a official sequel to the movies, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's still canon or whatever. Canonicity and Ghostbusters is not one of my familiar. Yeah. I'm not a scholar of it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at this point the remake isn't even canon.
Hey, want to know a fun fact? There's a Ghostbusters Pokemon Go game coming out.
Really?
It's called like Ghostbusters World. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is that there's all we know is that the whole commercial has a phone, and it plays a little 8-bit jingle version of a Ghostbusters theme, and then you see it start flashing with the proton pack.
Oh yeah. And like, you mean like the device that like has the little antennas come up?
Oh no, it's your phone. It's the actual like.
Does it have an icon that looks like that?
No.
Because I think that they would do that. That seems like something they would.
Dude, the Pokemon Go ripoff games are getting better in Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
Like there's a Jurassic World game that hasn't come out yet unless you VPN to Canada. Mm-hmm. And the one thing is that I have Pokemon Go on my phone. And I looked. Pokemon Go ain't jack shit for miles. Turn on this Jurassic Park game. There's a Tyrannosaurus. There's a Triceratops. They load you with all the dinosaurs. Do you know why? Because the AI in the game knows your move before you make it. I shit you not. I'm stuck on the first enemy. Yeah, but back to Ghostbusters. I really liked how the media they influenced made ghosts relevant again. Because there was that ghost booms like in the 50s and 60s. Kind of died down a bit, then we got Ghostbusters.
Yeah, it shifted from, I guess Ghostbusters has to be thanked for this, is like it shifted from straight up horror to, I mean, it's back to horror now, kind of, but for a while it was more science fiction or paranormal.
Even sometimes comedy, like Ghost Dad.
Yeah, you could say that it even inspired Hellboy.
Oh my.
Like, maybe, because I guess...
It's got that vibe.
Yeah, the BPRD seems like it would be inspired by the Ghostbusters.
That would be a fun crossover for IDW to consider.
Yeah. Or, I mean, Dark Horse owns Hellboy.
I know that, but like they could do like, hey,
sort of like an amalgamation universe.
Yeah, because I just want to picture, there's a huge ectoplasmic burst and Hellboy is beating the crap out of like this mummy ghost.
I'd love to see. What? This is probably not really possible, but crossover between Ghostbusters and Mob Psycho. That's another one that I wanted to talk about, is because that was also inspired. It has some obvious inspiration from Ghostbusters, because one of the characters in Mob Psycho, Dimple, he's basically Slimer. And I can actually pull up.
Is he like an anime kid Slimer?
Yeah, he looks pretty much identical to Slimer in that he's this green floating orb with arms. And
Slimer used to give me nightmares. The noise he made.
Yeah, like he is a pretty frightening design in the movies. Less so in the cartoon.
Yeah, well, like in the movies, they do every wart, pimples. It's weird when a ghost gets fat.
Like maybe he's
he's dissolving in that ectoplasm.
Like the representation of gluttony or whatever.
Now, I know of the movies more than just, but if they did Van Helsing as it was, never mind. But yeah, Slimer used to give me nightmares. It was just the noise, though, to be honest.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm gonna have to check later, but I think they might have changed the design slightly in the sequel, as opposed to the first one.
The one joke that I loved in Ghostbusters, a remake, was they found Slimer a girlfriend. Nice. And they have a Bonnie and Velma and Louise moment. That was the only good joke in the entire film.
Yeah, this is what he looks like.
Oh, God.
Yeah, see? He looks like a chibi version of Slimer.
He looks like a Pokemon.
Yeah.
He looks like Mr. Jinx and Gengar had like
or a Ghastly.
Ghastly.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like the anime series. I actually read some of the comic too, and it's made by the same guy who did One Punch Man.
Oh, I can actually kind of see that in the style.
Yeah, it's interesting because the anime for One Punch Man was the art style was based more on the redraw. Because
and Mob Psycho is more of the original.
Yeah, Mob Psycho is closer to the original art style by one, and I actually think that I actually like Mob Psycho a lot better than One Punch Man, because I actually didn't finish One Punch Man. I sort of trailed off, and I've been meaning to get back to it.
My issue with One Punch Man is, this is gonna sound stupid, it's trying too hard, I think.
Yeah, there is sort of a sense that they are with it.
I'm not gonna talk shit about one of the most popular animes around, but at the same time, you know, if they're trying to play off, Superman being so powerful. If you want to do a fun game, go to any forum or Discord share or wherever that does who would win. Say Superman, you'll win every time.
I don't know, because One Punch Man it doesn't try to take itself seriously. It's more of a satire. It's like saying it's like saying Judge Dredd tries to take itself too seriously. The original comics, I mean.
Oh, I love Judge Dredd, man.
Yeah.
It was almost Warhammer in a comic.
Yeah, it's meant to be satire, and that comes across more in the comic than it does in the anime, to me.
Do you think they'll ever make a Judge Dredd versus the Punisher?
If they haven't already, I imagine they would.
I'm sorry, I just have this mental they're shooting at each other for 15 minutes, and they do the pan away, and the whole building is only held up by the pillars.
Yeah, but I really love Mob Psycho.
I'm gonna have to watch it now.
Yeah, you should. There's only 12 episodes right now in the whole series. I think that they're coming out with another season either this year or next year. Because they actually had a OVA produced recently. It just recently aired. So
I miss good OVAs. Yeah. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood had this OVA that was basically a version.
Is that the one where Hitler shows up?
No, that's a movie. Okay. What it was is literally it's you as an alchemist. Oh look, come over here. It's almost first person. They even show your hands at one point. It's like that game. What's that movie where it's trying to be a first person game?
Hardcore Henry.
Yeah, it's almost like Hardcore Henry, but it's an anime and came out years before. But what I loved about it, I'm sorry that it's oh look, there's Lust, look, there's Gluttony, and it may as well be a meet and greet of all the villains in a row. Hey look, there's Greed. Wait, shouldn't Greed be dead by the time Pride shows up? Who cares? Yeah. I think that's really why Ghostbusters is the impact it made. It's gonna be lasting around for a long while, for better, or in the case of a reboot, for worse.
Yeah. I would like to see more original ideas come out than just rehashing the same old thing.
Oh God! Speaking of rehashes, have you seen the trailer for The Predator?
No, I haven't.
Do you want me to tell you what it is? Oh look, it's Halloween, and look, there's kids in costumes. They walk in there, and this little boy opens something in this garage that looks like the Ghostbusters made, all that junk stuff, and he pulls out this little toy or an alien thing, and he's driving it, and it cuts to this alien ship or Predator ship crashing through the canyons, and I'm sorry. It's trying to look like the kid's controlling the ship. All I'm picturing is the Predator being thrown back and forth. He's screaming for his life, and then they reveal the Predator's plot is. They don't want to kill humans anymore. They want to breed with them. Or fuse with them. And I'm sorry, I'm just picturing the Predator going he's got the woman from ABB. Oh no, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill me? And it cuts to him winking. He's just chittering. Yeah. Oh God. Jurassic World is an okay rehash. The trailers suck. Mm-hmm. But I have hopes because it's being done by Colin Trevorrow, who did an okay job with the first one. Mm-hmm. The Jurassic World trivia, the final fight scene was directed by the kid's son. He was playing with toy dinosaurs, and they had this little mock-up of a city, and they looked at it, and he pulled out his smartphone and filmed it. Huh. And most of the fight is based completely on that kid's footage. Huh. That's what I heard on the Facebook. But the Facebook also posted, did you know that Batman exists in the same universe as Jurassic Park? Do you know how they prove this? Oh. Dr. Henry Wu, the scientist, makes an appearance in the Batman movie of Ra's al Ghul. Oh. His actor does.
I mean, it would be more clever and more nerdy if they linked Jurassic World to the Savage Land. Or, Dinosaur Island. Sorry. Savage Lands is Marvel.
Oh, dude. And, holy shit, you could have, InGen was around back in those days. Or Biosyn. You know what I would like to do for our next episode? I'm just going to save us here, maybe. If the two times before Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom comes out, we do the originals and we do Jurassic World. Because I'm sorry, I just want to talk about dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. And it is a monster movie, because not a single dinosaur shows up in the franchise.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that we are about wrapped up.
All right.
I have been Tony,
I've been Zach.
and this has been The Monkey Bar.